Hey you guys, what's up? It is Blind Eye, and I'm here to give you all my thoughts on Twisted Metal Season 2, Episode 8. And let's get right into it. This episode takes place at the school again. This and the next episode, there is no car combat, so we're getting some character arcs going on here today for this week. So these were kind of like filler episodes in a way, but there's a lot of character development going on and a lot of backstory going on, which is pretty cool. So if I kind of get the two episodes mixed up, I apologize. Like events and whatever. But anyway, so we start out in Louisiana, but it's not New Orleans. It's Old Orleans, which is pretty cool. And Axel, it's a flashback with Axel, and he's in a bake shop, a bakery. And there's this guy that comes in, and he's like, hey, I need a cake. I need a cake delivered or whatever. And he hands him a card, and it has an address on it, and the address is 95 as a reference to when the first Twisted Metal came out, and the name of the address was one of the levels, which is pretty cool. And so you're like, okay, what's going on here? And so they cut to him outside this house, and he's locking and loading up. It's like, oh, what's going on here? He's a hitman? Is that what's going on? And you find out that he's doing this because he has like debts he's got to pay, so this is what he's got to do. And he goes up in this house, and this was cool though. It's all first person POV, first person shooter type shit. And it was pretty cool. He's taking everybody out. This one other person comes up and tries to attack him. He takes her out. It was awesome. I was like, man, that's such a cool like effect or whatever, cool sequence. Like, we need more of that. Those are fun. And then he's about to leave, and then a baby starts crying. And it's like, oh, he ain't gonna do nothing to the baby. He's Axel. He ain't gonna do nothing. He's got a good heart, man. He's a good guy. And so we find out later on in the episode is that he takes the baby and he goes to raise it as his own. And a group of vultures shows up when, everything goes to shit, when the apocalypse starts. And he loses the baby, and that's the last thing he remembers about the baby is the baby crying, and that's it. So he feels guilty about that. We also find out that his girlfriend cheats on him with his dad, and I guess they ended up getting married. I didn't catch that line, but apparently that happened, so the poor guy's going through a lot of shit. And we find out that the reason why he keeps chugging the gasoline is like he needs it. He needs it like to live, and like that's what I can't live without the gas. Like I need it. It's like an addiction, like a drug. And that's what, gives him like his Axel power. That's what he does. And he has an intervention. I know I'm jumping all around, but I want to get Axel stuff, kind of combined. So he has an intervention. We'll get to with who in a minute. And, that's where he talks about everything. So he finds out, like, yeah, I don't need that. I don't need the gas. And so we'll come back to that. That'll get paid off in a minute. So they're all back at the school. Everyone's chilling. Raven's like, all these lights are flickering around. Like, well, they need to fix these lights. And it's like, it's totally Calypso putting it on. Like, he's totally putting it on. Putting on a show, making everything all creepy and whatnot. Or maybe it is just the lights flickering, but it's gotta be him. Come on. And so now we're at John and Quiet. Of course, Quiet is pissed. Quiet is obviously pissed about this. And so they get into a fight. She's like, I don't want to see you or whatever. And so he storms off. He's like, fine, you won't see me. And so then, Calypso comes on the intercom, the chime, and he's like, oh, it's time for a bonus round. It's like, I had the feeling they were going to do something like this because they released a clip of John and Mayhem fighting. We'll get to that too in a minute. And I was like thinking, I'm like, okay, so if that's what's going on here, we still haven't had that dancing episode or whatever, that party episode that I know is supposed to happen at some point. And sure enough, that's the next episode. So that, like I said, there ain't no car combat going on in this episode or the next. It's all about the characters, baby. And so there's like just so much stuff that happens. Like Vermin, she has a little bit of backstory. She talks about how she, I think, was in like some type of choir in school or something. She had like a crush on a dude and they were like, you know, digging each other. And then she goes, yeah, but he wouldn't put out, so I dumped him. So I'm like, okay. Calypso comes on the intercom, the chime and everything. And he's like, this is going to be a bonus round. And now we get a deep cut going on here. A group of robots or a group of dudes or a group of people, whatever. It's the Apocalypse 9, baby. This is a deep cut for Twisted Metal, okay? So Apocalypse 9, they were a group, like a street gang or just like crazy people or whatever, back in the OG Twisted Metal 1 days, 95, right? And they were going to be the original drivers of Minion at the very end. You were going to fight them, and then eventually changed to Minion and just made it way cooler. The Apocalypse 9 thing, it's like the concept idea is cool, and they were going to have like the video screen playing a bunch of random shit on the side of the vehicle, which is cool. But I mean, we got Minion out of it, so Minion's like way cooler than that. But that is pretty cool though. We got Apocalypse 9, that's badass. And it's a group of like test drive looking dummy things. And I guess like they all had because their skin's all yellow. I didn't really notice that, but whatever. But apparently they like melted their nerve endings off of the first layer of their skin or something. And that's why it's yellow. I don't know. But yeah, they look like crash test dummies, which is cool. And it's Apocalypse 9, which is cool. A nice deep cut. Now, I did not expect shit to get as gory as it did and as brutal as it did. This was cool. Now I'm noticing after watching videos and watching like other people's theories and stuff, I like this one, is that since we got Chucky Floop, his wish was to fly, and he gets kicked out of a window and flies, and then dies. And then Frostbite's wish is she wants to feel warm again. Well, she kind of got what she wanted. So her and Quiet are like in the gym doing their thing, and that's when all of a sudden the Apocalypse 9 guys show up. One of them shows up and they're putting up a fight. They're all fighting each other. Dude, this was so cool. This was brutal and it was awesome. So the dude takes Frostbite, pushes her head and holds her head down against the treadmill and speeds it up to the highest speed and just grinds her face and shreds her face off. And while she's getting her face freaking obliterated, she's like, it burns. So she technically got her wish. She wanted to feel warm again. Well, there you go. And that makes me think. Mayhem, she said she wanted to be invincible. Almost said invisible. She wants to be invincible. I bet you that's going to come into play later on. It has to. Now, I didn't notice this at first until I was watching like reactions and reviews and whatnot. After I was done watching it myself, I didn't realize that Mr. Grimm and Sweet Tooth didn't do any fighting. They didn't have any encounters with the Apocalypse 9 people. You would think of all the people, it'd be them two wanting to get in on this. Nope. Grimm got locked out of the school because he was out fishing. And then Sweet Tooth's over in the other room with the doc again. He's like sitting down with the doc and he's like, yeah, I got to tell you something. And Sweet Tooth's like, how long do I have? He's like, no, it's not that. You're sterile. You aren't allowed, you can't have kids. And so, that kind of bums him out. And then later on, Sweet Tooth is like, Stu, I'm going to adopt you as my son. Like after all this shit went down. So that's funny. He's like, here, let's play catch with your old man. And he throws him ahead of one of the Apocalypse 9 guys. And then we have Mike, Dave, and Stu all up in this one room with Axel. And that's where they do the intervention. And that's where Axel tells his backstory to them. And they convince like, hey, you don't need the gas, you don't need the fuel. You're Axel, baby. You're gonna rock this. And so that's what pumps him up. And then that's when Axel's like, you want Axel? Well, here I am, motherfucker. And then that's when he just goes ape shit on the Apocalypse 9 members, and he literally rips them apart, rip and tear until it is done. And it was so cool, man. Everyone's all like freaking out, but it was great. Now, as he's doing this, like he's ripping people's heads off, he's ripping off arms and legs and beating the other dudes to death with their own legs and limbs and arms and whatever. It was funny. So blood's flying everywhere, right? And there's a shot where Dave, he gets some blood on him and he kind of gives it a little taste. And so they're messing. I'm like, something's up. I do not trust this bitch. I do not trust him at all. Something's up with him. And yeah, we'll see what happens later on. And yeah, so after all that is done, John and Quiet, they're burying the hatchet, I guess, on this whole thing. And oh no, wait, before I forget, John and Mayhem are the ones running around together for the majority of this episode. And you have Vermin, Quiet, and Raven all hanging out together. Vermin is just all about it. She's loving this. And you find out that she takes out one of the Apocalypse 9 guys upside down, has him tied up, which is cool. And then John and Mayhem, they have their own fight with another one, and they take him out with a buzzsaw on the table, which was brutal. And I guess there was a Blockbuster reference. There was a reference to Home Alone 2. The machine that Mayhem uses, I guess, is from Home Alone 2. I never really watched Home Alone 1 or 2. Home Alone 3 was my jam. That's the best one. I don't care what anyone says. That's the best one. That's my personal favorite. Home Alone 3 all the way, baby. I used to watch that movie over and over like clockwork back in the day. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. So you got all these fights going on. And then, we go back to John and Quiet. They're having their conversation. And because she think, John was selfish for going behind her and making a wish to bring his sister back, which I don't blame him. But at the same time, I could see how it's selfish because, they had a mission to bring down all the walls. Speaking of wishes, we're going back to that. She wasn't specific. She said she wants to bring down all the walls in all the cities and all the world to give everyone a chance. Oh, Quiet, I am sorry. You were not specific. Oh, man. She had to say all the walls, dude. The whole world is about to go to shit even more. If she wins, oh my God. Hopefully something happens and someone shows up and is like, hey, you gotta be specific about what you want. Because, oh boy, but I kind of hope they don't because that's just how it is. Like, they don't need to know that. Not yet. Not until next season or the season after that. But anyway. So, they talk it out and they're cool now. Everything's all good. And then they go to leave. And then the door opens and there's that wishing well again. There it is again. And you hear Calypso laughing and that's where the episode ends. Yeah, this episode was cool. I get it. People want car combat and it's not the game, man. You gotta flesh these characters out and get to know them. You gotta have these slower moments. It's gonna go down. I'm sure it's about to get crazy here after I talk about the next episode. But yeah, that's it. I've blabbed enough for this episode. So there you go. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload new content. Check out the channel. I'm a filmmaker. I make my own films, one-man show type shit. I direct, write, edit, act in. I do the music, everything for everything I do. Original films, fan films, my own music I make on my iPad via GarageBand and BandLab, so I don't got to deal with copyright crap on YouTube because that sucks. But I get it. video game content, let's plays, first impressions. I got one review of Five Nights at Freddy's Help, one of them PSVR 2, my original films, a narrator, anthology series, Closet Creatures, Abductors, fan films, director from Horror Nights, HR Blood and Guts from Horror Nights, and Scarecrow from DC Comics. There's bound to be something you like. I do a little bit of everything. We got a bunch of Twisted Metal reviews, so if you guys haven't watched those, go ahead and watch them. You never know what's going to come to the channel. I got some stuff brewing, so yeah, buddy. So you never know what you're going to get unless you subscribe. And I'm blabbing. All right. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all for whatever comes next.